All right, everybody, we're back. I've got David Conte here in the booth with me. David is you've been working with the NRA ILA for quite some time now. If you would please just give people a little background about who you are, how you got involved with the NRA, and what you do for NRA ILA.
Sure. So I've been working for NRA ILA since 2010. And before 2010, I was volunteering on a race in Virginia and met some of the reps from the NRA. And the following year, they said, we like what you do. Please, interview with us. And, got hired on. And that's been the last 15 years. So
Yeah.
bouncing around the United States. And I think the last time I saw you, I only had a couple states, and now it's kind of grown.
Okay.
So I cover Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Kentucky, and Tennessee now.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I believe I don't remember which two states it was when we last met, but we met actually.
Yep.
You may remember this. We met at a firearms dealer in Seymour, Indiana, called
Yep.
Bite the Bullet.
Yep.
And I don't remember what was going on that day, but there was a special event, and you were there promoting NRA ILA. So.
Yeah. So that event there was the NRA Second Amendment Day, or NRA 2A Day event that we do at gun stores. Doesn't necessarily have to be at gun stores, but each year we do several hundred. I think last year we did 200, mainly focused on supporting candidates that we endorsed, some of those battleground areas across the United States. This year we have a goal of 250 of those.
Oh wow!
Across the United States.
Okay, great. How many in the region that you are part of?
So my personal goal this year is between 60 and 70.
Oh wow!
Of those.
Okay, great.
Which we'll probably do about a quarter of those in Indiana.
Okay, excellent. Well, I actually asked you to come onto the podcast. I've been receiving your emails for all these years since that event in Seymour, and I follow your emails, and I received the email. I'm looking at it now. It was from April 1st, and it's about the event called the NRA and You that will be taking place. Is that tomorrow?
Yes.
Okay, and tell us a little bit about what that event will entail.
So this is something that I came up with, kicking around actually for the last couple of years, and even for some of our biggest supporters. There's a lot of people out there that don't understand the history of the NRA or the full scope of the National Rifle Association. So this presentation goes through the history, from our founding to present day, and then it goes through the structure of the NRA, going through all the different divisions, some of our successes from 2024, and then at the end gives some opportunities for people to how they can, volunteer with the NRA.
If you would, talk a little bit about the NRA ILA, which is the Institute for Legislative Action, right? But the NRA, and I think that a lot of times the people who don't like the NRA, right, they really don't like the NRA ILA component because, right, they're the ones that are involved in D.C. and get behind all the legislative change. So talk a little bit about ILA, but also, if you would, a little bit about what else the NRA has going.
Sure. So NRA ILA was founded created in 1975, really as a direct response to a lot of the different gun control legislation that was passing, in the 70s and the 60s. So we're the only national organization that has lobbyists for all 50 states. We also have a separate team of federal lobbyists in Washington, D.C. That works with, U.S. House, U.S. Senate, and of course, the President of the United States, which this president, takes our phone calls. Biden, not so much. So within ILA, we have several different departments. So of course, we have the legislative side, litigation side, and then we have the grassroots side, and then what my job in our department is, we go out and educate people on what's going on legislatively, litigation-wise, and then also elections. What makes NRA ILA very unique is we're the only ones nationwide that actually field staff across the United States in battleground areas to raise an army of volunteers using very sophisticated technology and data, just like a presidential campaign would, to reach out to gun owners, educate them on the issues, and then get them out to vote.
Yeah, and that's partly where NRA's influence comes from at DC, is that you can take that data that you collect, right, to politicians and say, this is the information we have about our voting base and what sort of votes we can bring to you, right, if you get behind this certain piece of legislation. Right?
Absolutely. We are only as strong as our membership. And then, once we get on the ground, we're able to go beyond our membership, to gun owners nationwide and, communicate and talk with them. ILA, when I do events, I'm not just communicating to our membership. We also have a separate database of non-members, invite them out to events, educate them on legislation that's, happening. So it's a very broad, group of people that we can communicate with.
And you mentioned that the NRA ILA is the only organization with grassroots sort of efforts in all 50 states.
Correct.
And that you've got this influence not just with the membership, which I think is an important point. There are only there are, through my understanding, between 3 and 4 million members of the NRA currently. And that's actually a fairly small percentage of gun owners, right? Even though the NRA is a very large organization, lots of members, it still represents a very small percentage of total gun ownership. So what sorts of things do you do to reach out to non-members?
Well, so last year, I mentioned that Pennsylvania is one of my states, and certainly probably one of the most crucial battleground states for the election last year. I was going into, the inner cities, into, minority churches, talking to individuals that are gun owners, but they don't belong to any organizations, helping them connect the dots between ownership, personal safety, and then who they vote for, and how who they vote for directly impacts, that capability of owning a firearm and also protecting themselves. Pennsylvania has, close to 500,000 hunters that weren't even registered to vote as of the beginning of last year. So between us and another group called Hunter Nation, Ted Nugent's group, we were able to message to that 500,000 and get about a little over 150,000 of them educated, registered to vote, and then turn them out to vote come election day.
Yeah, wow. So let's talk a little bit more, if we can, about the NRA and you. You mentioned that part of the presentation, the seminar, is going to be about the history of the NRA. Can you talk a little bit about the history and some of the misconceptions about the NRA and its sort of core functions and what it stems from?
Sure. So, the NRA, was created or founded right after the Civil War. And it was by, two Union officers that saw, a great need for marksmanship in America. So the Union forces greatly underperformed Southern forces when it came to, marksmanship. So right after that, we were founded in, New York in, 1871. And our first range was Creedmoor Range. And, it just kind of went from there. And then we started, setting up collegiate clubs across the United States and bringing that education of, training, marksmanship, and education, across the United States. And I think, some of the misconceptions is everybody thinks of the NRA as, like the lobbying arm. But, NRA ILA is actually a very small component of the NRA. The biggest part is training, education, and competitions. So we're involved with Olympics. We're involved with Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, 4-H. Uh, so it, kind of spans the spectrum,
Mhm.
new and old. Uh, People have this, image of, uh, won't speak about myself being bald, but, elderly, bald, gray,
Yeah.
individuals. But, a lot of our programs, we're going into, elementary schools, teaching little kids, not to touch,
Yeah.
firearms,
Yeah.
through the Eddie Eagle program.
Right.
Now we have a very modernized, AR education uh, and uh, competition program, actually in Camp Atterbury,
Right.
there in Indiana. And it's kind of morphed over the years. Our history, growing with the times. But with that core value of training, education, and competitions, and
Yeah.
then later on, of course, what we do with the lobbying component.
Yeah. My family and I, we've been my brother and my parents, we've been NRA instructors for over a decade now, and that's one of the things that we always tell people that take our class, even though it's not essential to the class, to the basic handgun class or whatever class it is that the NRA was founded as a training organization,
Right.
and it still carries on that legacy, that focus as a training organization today, has thousands of instructors around the country.
I believe it's over 100,000.
Yeah, yeah. That teach people the essentials of basic marksmanship, gun handling, and gun safety, and really the foundation of responsible gun ownership
Right.
and responsible armed citizenship. So I think the NRA has been essential to that, to sort of cultivating that culture in the United States for since the end of the Civil War, essentially.
143, 144 years.
Yeah, yeah, and the NRA still does that today. As a matter of fact, I'll be talking with John Howard
Okay.
later today, who's the training director
Right.
at NRA. So we'll get into more detail with him about that. So, with the NRA and you seminar, will you be speaking at that tomorrow? Or
Yes.
Okay, great. And I don't want to give away too many of the punchlines for that.
Appreciate
So
it.
you'll be talking about the history. What else will you be talking about?
Yeah,
tomorrow?
history. Major events in history that have kind of shaped the NRA, the structure of the NRA. Most NRA members and people on the outside, their only connections with the NRA, maybe it's ILA, maybe it's Friends of the NRA with their banquets. So going over the complete structure of the organizations to kind of help everybody understand that there's so much more out there for them to get involved with. And then we're going to have a quiz, so people won't, have the opportunity to fall asleep. So we'll do a quiz, hand out some, some hats, T-shirts, of course, and then at the end, kind of educate people on how they can get more involved locally.
Okay.
So, in Indiana, we're bringing on board a lot of frontlines activist leaders. These are volunteers that are kind of like super volunteers to help host events, like the one that you went to at Bite the Bullet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, excellent. And I want to talk a little bit about the Friends of the NRA as well, because I actually just went to one recently in Southern Indiana. It's the largest one in the country.
Correct.
It's the what is it? It's the um, Friends of the NRA. It's the Ohio Valley, or I can't remember
Yeah, I think it's the Ohio Valley banquet.
Yeah, I can't remember the whole name of it, but it's at Huber's, at Starlight, Indiana, and over 1,000 people in attendance. But what's so great about it is that that event is designed to raise money for youth shooting sports.
Correct.
Can you tell us a little bit about what the money that's raised through those types of events goes to?
Sure. So the money that's raised, 50% of it stays in state in Indiana. The other 50% goes towards national programs, such as like Eddie Eagle, School Shield, Community Shield. Uh, there's a few other education programs there as well. But, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, 4-H, they can apply for grants through the foundation to get, money for firearms, range development grants, if they need to, upgrade their ranges. So
Nice.
it's a wonderful program. Uh, I don't have the numbers on the top of my head because I don't work for that division, but they've donated, millions and millions of dollars through the grant program.
Yeah, it's always a fantastic event, and there are hundreds of those types of events throughout the country, I assume.
Yeah, there's, I think last year they did north of over 500 events nationwide.
Yeah, wow. So raised lots of money that's utilized for a great purpose,
Right.
cultivating that responsible gun ownership, gun safety at a young age. You may or may not have seen this, uh, but as a response, or partly as a response to the war in Ukraine, the Polish government and the schools in Poland have started to institute marksmanship programs in their schools. And it's become, I think they can opt out of it in some ways, but they want to cultivate that, what's incorporated in the Second Amendment is that a well-regulated militia, which is not what lots of people think it means, but what the essence of it is that we want the people to be able to not only protect themselves and the country against foreign invaders, but against a tyrannical government.
Right.
And I think that I was glad to see that in Poland, but I think that the NRA and through programs like the Friends of the NRA, you sort of cultivate that mentality at a young age, and it's not a mentality of fear, right? It's a mentality of preparedness and responsibility.
Right. Yeah. My wife and I got married a couple of years ago, and we actually went on our honeymoon in Poland.
Oh, nice.
And I remember at our hotel, the guy at the front desk, said, are you American? And gave us a brochure on a local gun range to, I think it was, $50 to shoot 50 rounds from an AK-47.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, we spent some time in Eastern Europe, and a lot of those countries get it.
Yeah.
Slovakia, they have for many years, they've been a lot of concealed carry over there. But most of those countries don't have a concept of personal protection. You do not have a right to protect yourself. So I was very happy to see Poland, and they got a lot of troops along that border,
Yeah.
Pointing towards, Russia, and they're starting to get it. So they're starting to incorporate, some new programs because I think they have the least out of all of the NATO countries and the EU, they have the lowest gun ownership than everybody else there.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so
that's surprising, actually.
Yeah, so the mentality hasn't been there, and so I was very happy to see them roll out these programs. And
Yeah.
I won't spill the beans, but we are working on some programs for some other European countries.
Oh, neat.
So that'll come to light here later this year.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll keep an eye out for that. I assume.
Absolutely.
Well, speaking of that, where can people follow? Well, what's the best resource for people to follow in terms of what the NRA ILA is doing, and to get updates about things like that?
Sure. Well, first place they can go is nraila.org, and there is a treasure trove of information from past and current information. But if you go on to nrailafrontlines.com, you can sign up to get our grassroots alerts, and those are all tailored for your particular state, and we'll keep you updated on local events. Of course, if there's any legislation going on in your state, we'll keep you informed there as well.
Okay, excellent. And I'm pulling up the NRA ILA Frontlines.
So if you just click on get involved there,
I'm going to share the screen so folks can see what we're looking at here. All right, and yeah, okay. So get involved.
Yep, get involved there.
And will you volunteer? Okay. So then you say what you're willing to do.
Right.
And what sorts of information you want.
Now, you're not signing up for the military there. It's not anything like that, but you're just letting us know what you're interested in doing.
Okay.
And, one of our staff, either myself, if it's Indiana, will reach out, let you know what the opportunities are.
Okay.
and just kind of take that, build that relationship from there.
And this does not require membership, I assume?
No, it does not.
Okay. So anybody who wants to get involved can get involved, and
Correct.
if they decide they want to become a member later, they can do that later.
Membership needs to be earned.
Yeah.
That trust needs to be earned. And signing up with Frontlines is a great opportunity to kind of see, what NRA ILA does.
Yeah. Great. Okay. Well, David, I really appreciate you taking the time to stop by the booth today to talk about NRA ILA and what you're up to. And you said 15 years you've been doing this?
Yeah,
15
since
years.
2010.
Well, thanks a lot for all your efforts. I know Indiana, I can't speak for the rest of your region. I know Indiana has been relatively gun friendly, and with the exception of our red flag law, although it's not as bad as some others, but
Right.
all of them are bad in my opinion.
Absolutely.
And so I appreciate the efforts you've made in Indiana and elsewhere, and I hope the event goes well tomorrow. If anybody is here in Atlanta, check out the NRA and U event tomorrow. What time is it tomorrow?
It is
2 o'clock, I think.
2 o'clock. Yes.
2 o'clock, and that'll be here at the NRA annual meeting in Atlanta. Will there be any recording or way for people to see that after the fact?
I don't believe that particular
Okay.
event is going to be
Okay, I know
recorded.
some of them are, but
Yeah.
not all of them. So, all right. Well, thanks a bunch for stopping by, and it was
Absolutely.
great chatting with you.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, David. All right, everybody, I'm going to hit the mute button here for a minute, and we'll be ready for our next guest here in just a little bit.